Good afternoon, flosstube. This is Gem Stitch with my April-May update. It's a little bit earlier. I don't even think my last video has been up a month yet, but I'm going away for a couple of days tomorrow, so this is my opportunity to do my April-May update. So firstly, I'd like to say thank you to all my subscribers and to any new subscribers that I've got followers. Also, I'd like to say thank you to and congratulations to all the people that did participate in Stitch Mania. It's been great looking at all your videos, although I did get a little bit behind because there was so many, but it's been really good watching all your progress, and of course all the different approaches that you have to your projects, as well as looking at new designers and stuff like that, so love it. So I guess we better get started. Oh, first off, I said in my last video that I had an idea to hopefully make a project holder type thing that would be able to accommodate me rolling my projects, and I did say hopefully I'd have that made, or at least a mock of it, so that I could share it, but I haven't got around to doing that yet. So hopefully next month, but who knows. So I have actually got this week off of work, but as I said, I'm actually going away, so although I'll be taking some of my stitching with me, I don't intend to like be trying to make things completely when I'm away, so even though it's for a couple of days. So as soon as I can get it done, then I will almost certainly share. I didn't actually look it up, and I should have done. There was also some good suggestions by people that commented on my last video. One lady was talking about possibly wrapping up your rolled projects in tissue paper or some sort of card, and you know, that's a really good idea, especially when, as I was saying in my last video, where you're talking about fabrics that are really super soft, like the Weeks Dye Works and things like that. That could be a really good idea. Obviously try and use the acid free like scrapbooking paper, but that you can get, and maybe just pin it around the edges, so that when it rolls up it's going to keep some of its shape as opposed to sort of collapsing in on itself where the fabric's so soft. So that was a really good idea that a lady mentioned. I'm not sure if it's Ellen or, but yeah, it's a good, so I thought I'd share just in case. I know I don't always read everybody's comments on other people's videos, so I thought I'd better say that that was one of the suggestions that was made. So yeah, there was also another suggestion. Let me see if I can find it. I thought I'd prepared myself because I have actually got quite a few bits to show you. Obviously didn't prepare myself as well as I thought I had. Hold on a second. And Kristin rolls up her finishes in a towel to keep them from getting dirty, and then she places them on top of each other and then rolls them up again in another towel. So certainly, you know, that's another good option. And just to check who was saying about the sorry, talk amongst yourselves. I don't normally do this, do I? I'm terrible. Elise, sorry, not Ellen, Elise was saying about craft paper. She was talking about the brown paper, or but she's from Canada, so you know. But yeah, I was thinking also some sort of, as long as it was acid free so it didn't affect any of your stitching, then in theory that is another good suggestion. So yeah, anyway, April. So because we'll go back, because from my last video, so for April I was working on April showers brings May flowers, and my choice for my focus piece that month was a new start, and it's the Cuore Batticuore, and it's the Summer Garden. Excuse my nails as well, I do apologise. So yeah, and I did have some progress obviously because it was about 2 weeks in. So hopefully I will paste a progress where I was last at here. And then I left off before the 1st of May, and this is where I got up to. So I managed to get the poppies done, and I started on, these are going to be sunflowers down the bottom. I decided to do it like this because I have a Lowry stand, and I have the attachment that you can move your scroll frame across to the position that you want it without having to move the stand or your seat where you're sitting. So yeah, I thought it would, for ease, I'll go down, and then obviously I can move it along to where I'd like it. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with the poppies. The poppies are a nice, although the purples are lovely, obviously they complement the blue, so I wanted that pop of colour, and obviously the red gave me that, so I'm pleased with my progress there. So I think another 2 focus months on that, when it becomes a focus piece, we'll probably see that completed, although this isn't, I don't intend for this now to come out until next year sometime, because I'm following the Stitch Mania sales. Obviously my works in progress take priority on a scheme, whatever the theme is for that month, so we'll have to see, because they haven't released what next year's are yet, so we'll have to see. But this is just as a recap, this is on 32 count Belfast linen in vintage blue. Obviously that's the back, so you can see it's a plain blue, but it's sort of it's not hand dyed, it's printed, so that's why one side is, not that you can really see that, but one side is just a flat colour and the other side has a mottled effect. So, but that's the vintage blue. So that was my progress on my focus piece for April showers bring May's flowers. So unfortunately we won't be seeing that till next year at some point. So my plans for May, as I said, was that it was a time out month for me. I wasn't going to participate in Stitch Mania because I've only just sort of taken on doing more than one project at a time, and I didn't want to overwhelm myself, although I love watching all of your videos. So so I did stick to what I said, and I thought, well, I'll pick up pieces that I haven't worked on for whatever reason this year, or didn't intend to work on, and if I could finish them, all the better. So one of the pieces that I did was, or picked up, was my Box of Delights, which is a Liz Almond pattern. It's a free pattern that you can find on her website, and the reason I hadn't worked on it was because I was using jodyridesigns antique silks for each Box of Delight, or box, what I call them, the little Box of Delights, and I'd run out. There hadn't been enough release to fill in all the boxes, so I was waiting for some more releases, but I waited about 6 months and there hasn't been any, so I didn't want it just sort of sitting there, so I figured I'd just go back and sort of repeat some of them. I mean, obviously they're not completely repeated because the patterns are different each time, but a repeat of the thread. So here is where you saw it last. And I managed to get a finish. So I managed to get this completed. So as I said, this is Box of Delights by Liz Almond. My inspiration was the French Patissier company. See a running theme with my stuff. The French Patissier company, and I can't think. Oh, it's completely escaped me. Ladore, I think. Yeah, Ladore. And they make, and they've got beautiful pastels. They use very pastel, sort of shabby chic pastels, but they introduce like the gold rococo baroque sort of accents. So I really like that colour scheme. So when I see this fabric, which is a hand dyed, it's 28 to count, even weave from Sparklies, and it was the limited edition for January 2015. I thought it would be perfect. I would say the fabric is a tad darker than what it's showing, but other than that the mottling is exactly as. So I've used jodyridesigns antique silks. I've got some plain sort of ones here, what I call plain. They're not plain, they don't have metallics or beads. That's done in a DMC. The outline is done in a DMC. I've done the border in a petite treasure braid, and the metallics that I've used is also a petite treasure braid as well. There's Mill Hill chocolate coloured beads in there, and I hadn't filled in the centre points because I wasn't sure about the colour, but I just went with it in the end, and that's a Kreinik. But all the listings of everything that I used I'll put in the information box. So that's completed. So that releases another of my potential 11 folders for projects, which is really good. So that's all done and completed. So I've taken the measurements on it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. So I've taken the measurements on it because then should I come across something, a box or a frame, or whether I'm going to turn it into a cushion, so for fabric or whatever, I leave the measurements on my phone, and so that I can always refer to it. I just find that easier. So, and then my next plan of action was to work on, sorry I keep looking away, but I've put it somewhere and now I can't find it. Sorry. My next plan of action was to work on my Christmas project. Now, I know I'm repeating myself, but just in case, November and December I class as one focus piece because of them being ridiculously busy for me, as they are for a lot of people, but because I work in retail as well, it just goes stupid. So it would be unfair for me to have a December project because sometimes I'll be lucky if I get a week's worth or stitching. So I tend to, so if I do November, December, I feel better because I've had November and December, still busy, but so my November and December project, which followed on from last year, was the Christmas Carol sampler. This is a primitive Hare pattern. So I thought I didn't have much left to do, and I thought, oh well, as I haven't got a lot left to do, and I've got another project, the Christmas project, that I want to do on the 1st of November once this is completed, wouldn't it be nice to get this finished in this month so that on the 1st of November I get a new start for my next Christmas piece. So I picked it up, and here's where I left off. Nearly forgot that. Here's where I left off. And this is where I am now. So it's completely finished. I really didn't have that much left to do. I had the carriage and the writing on the bottom. As you can see, I've actually changed the writing on the bottom. I wanted it to look more like scribbly handwriting, and it's charted, can't really see it there, but it's charted in like a block. I don't know whether you can see it, like a block lettering, and it says Tiny Tim and Ebenezer Scrooge, A Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens. I wasn't too worried about saying Tiny Tim and Ebenezer Scrooge. So I just changed the font. I obviously have font issues, you may have noticed, and just put A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And that's my signature there, which will be important in a minute when I tell you, and the year. So, yeah, so I'm really pleased. I have got a frame for this. I always check in my local charity shops, I think you call them thrift stores in America, and check out the frames, because often they'll have nice frames in there, even if the things inside isn't really a cup of tea. If you can change the frame or alter the frame, then that's great. And obviously sometimes they're a lot cheaper. So yeah, so I actually picked up a frame, and I've had it for ages, because when I like a frame I think, oh, I'll just buy it, you never know what it's going to be good for. And it will actually fit this perfectly. So, but it doesn't have any backing or anything on this frame, it is literally just the frame. So I've got to think of a way to back this. But all the colours that I've used are as charted, except the black. The black I've used is an anchor black. But also, as discussed, I think in my last video, I did only buy one skein of everything that was recommended on here, and I needed more, particularly of the hand dyed of the Ghast. So I'm gonna again put that information down, and now I've actually completed the piece, I'm actually going to list how many I used, so that if you did choose to do this piece yourself, then you've got a rough estimate to pick up what you think, because of dye lots and stuff like that. So this was actually done on, it should have been charted on Weeks Dye Works. No, it shouldn't have done. It should have been charted, because it's a primitive hair, it should have been charted on 30 count Salem linen. I actually did this on Weeks Dye Works Baby's Breath, but it is still a 30 count. So I've had 2 finishes. Yay! I've also had 2 fully finished projects as well. So actually I didn't feel like I was, at the beginning, literally like a week ago, when I was, maybe a week and a half ago, when I was working on beginning of May, and I'm looking at, you know, the Box of Delights and thinking, oh, I want to get that done, and so then I can move on to Christmas Carol and we'll get that done. I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed and feeling a little bit like, because I don't like changing out projects that quickly. But actually I think I've actually achieved quite a bit this month, so I shouldn't really beat myself up too much about it. So, oh, just for future reference, because obviously I've actually changed fonts on 2 different projects now this year, but this is the book I use. I picked it up from eBay like at least 2 years ago, but it does come in handy and I really like it. So it's Learn to Design, Book 1 by Dale Burdett, 101 Alphabet. Jeanette Cruz Designs Inc. So, but I find it really, really helpful. So if you ever come across this book, and if you've liked some of the fonts that I've used, then this is where I'm getting them from, or at least getting the idea to, and then adapting them if necessary. So yeah, I thought I'd mention that. So 2 finishes. My first finish that I had, again, was a frame from a charity shop, but it was pretty hideous, to be fair. I mean, personal preference, but it was covered in like a floral with a gold border. So, but I liked, it's quite a plain and simple frame if you paint it, which is what I did. So this is my Creations de Cristal, and here's my finish. So I painted this frame in an off-white because I felt that complemented the piece better. I actually used, big shout out to Patissier for her framing video. I watched it about 15 times. So yeah, and I actually used the technique. It's not perfect, but I'm happy with it. And it's an odd shape because it looks square, but it's not. It's actually slightly longer. So I felt that it would be better to have a frame like this. And then, ironically, I had a piece of fabric that really matches that heart in colour, I feel. So I like Cuore e Batticuore. When you look at a lot of their designs, when they frame them, they add a piece of fabric on the bottom to give it that sort of continental shabby chic look. Perfect. So I added a piece of fabric on the bottom. I actually just pinned it into the frame. It's not added to the linen. So just as a recap, this was stitched on Crafty Kitten 2015 limited edition fabric for January, and it's a 28 count cashel, and I kept all the colours the same. I changed some things, but if you watch my other videos I'll go into more detail about that. But I did make some alterations to this, but nothing major. And now I have it framed. And it's actually one of those frames that has its own little stands up, freestand by itself. So that's handy because I haven't had to get my husband to put it on the wall. But yeah, so I'm really pleased with that, and literally all I used was a matte acrylic on here. I used the white, but I added a tiny bit of light ochre so that it would have I didn't want a yellow tinge, I wanted it an off cream because I felt that that would suit better. So that's what I did. So I'm really proud, super proud of this was the first project I've ever fully finished in a frame, so I'm happy with myself for that. Like pat on the back moment. And because of the Bethany Sampler that I actually want to give as a gift, I wanted to do, at least have done it once before I was going to actually attempt it to give as a present. But I've actually done another one. So this is my second fully finish. So this is the Peony Pixie by Nora Corbett. It's stitched exactly as, except the skin's 1/1, and I used a petite treasure braid for the wings where requested. The fabric that I stitched it on was a sparklies fabric. It was a limited edition for October. Now, yes, normally because these hand-dyed fabrics are so beautiful, you would want to maybe put it in a large frame so that you really get the feel for the hand-dyed fabrics. But I intend on stitching a few of these, so I haven't cut the fabric down, so I always could, but because I was intending on using a few of these, I will run out of space if I intend to frame them and really show off the fabric. So I was cutting it fine, granted, but I just bought this frame. This frame was brand new, but it was I did think for some reason in my head I did think the wings were more this colour, but I think it goes, so it's not a problem. These haven't got glass on because of the beads, and I know you can put fillets in, they call them, or stackers, or even in Tara C's video, which is a great idea, she talks about using mount boards. The more mount boards you use, the frames, then obviously that will recess the pattern, and it can buy you those, like, you know, millimetres that you need, but no is the answer. So at this moment in time, this hasn't got any glass on it, and I actually remember to sign this one on the bottom as well with the year. The last one I did it all and looked at it and I was like, there's no signature. And then my husband was like, oh, just take it off and redo it. I was like, no, no, you don't understand. You don't just take it off and redo it. So this one hasn't got a signature on it. But this one has, which is why it was a big issue when I've actually put my signature on the Christmas Carol, and I've put the signature on but it's a small signature. I didn't put the year on it, but I have actually put my signature on the box of delights too. So I am going to endeavour to remember every time I finish a piece, just remember to put my signature on it, so that when I get enthusiastic and I want to frame something or turn it into something, I don't then go, oh, I didn't put my signature on it. But yeah, and I put the year as well. I'm not too worried about months and days and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's my actual second fully finished. So in theory, I have actually been reasonably successful this month, even though it felt a bit bitty. But then to the Bethany project. So obviously my plan of action, this has a deadline, which is Christmas. My plan of action for this was to try and complete a letter a month. So last month it was the letter H. It feels a bit like Sesame Street right now, but that's fine. So last month it was the letter H. So I'll insert a picture to where I was up to last month. And this is where I'm up to now. So obviously I've kind of still got it on the frame. So I completed the letter H and the back stitching, and I've got to the A. Now normally I would have hoped to have had the cake done, but bear in mind, because what I'm planning on doing is I sort of split them up into sections, into 4 sections, so that I've got a guideline to have a section completed per week, so that I can get a letter done a month. But because I really wanted to get those 2 projects finished, I figured if I get them 2 finished, then I've got the rest of the month to work on this. So that's why I'm not as far along as I would traditionally have hoped to have been into like the second, third week of May. But then I've got this as a sole project to work on till the 1st of June. So this is the project that will be coming away with me tomorrow. If I get an opportunity to stitch on it, then I will. But hopefully I'll be able to get at least the letter A done and completed to stay on track. It's not the end of the world. I'm actually 2 months ahead of progress anyway, but it would be nice because that just gives me that little bit of extra time, just in case, you know, something like I can't find a frame or something, you know, that I really like. So, I also made, and I watched the video of the Twisted Stitcher, where she was making her own project bags, and I've been making the zip bags and things, like I said, and I've given them away mainly. But I wanted, and I really liked her video, so I thought I'm going to give that a go. So I made a project bag, but I wanted it a bit more traditional in the sense that I didn't want to use Velcro, because Velcro is a really great idea, but I have a cat that's hair gets everywhere, and it's not just that, it's like any little bits stick to Velcro. So Velcro is good for sticking to Velcro and everything else, but it's personal preference. So I didn't want to use Velcro, and I wanted to sort of keep it a bit sort of traditional, so I've decided to go old school style and use the ribbon and a big button. So you literally just unhook it, yeah, and then you just put it back, so that holds it in place. I did also change the dimensions, as you can see, to suit me more. So I know this fabric's a little bit leery, but I didn't want to use fabrics. I wanted to use like my scrap fabrics, although actually this did take a fair sized piece, but I wanted to use my scrap fabrics first, just to see whether it would work. I haven't deliberately put a bottom in or anything. I made sure that I measured it so that it would have enough leeway. So this actually turned out a little bit bigger than I expected, so I'm really happy, because it's just got a play blue on the inside. This actually fits one of my folders, I don't know whether you've seen them before, where I normally keep all my projects. Let's make sure there's no pattern. So you can see the front cover there without the glare. So this is where I normally keep all the bits for my projects, are in here. But this actually fits it as well. So it's still not solving my rolled storage problem, but I've got a plan for that. That's for another day. But for now, that's ideal, and it does actually still have. I mean, I've got one of these in here as well. So, and I think at a stretch you could possibly fit a Q-snap. I don't use them very often, but you could, a hoop or a Q-snap you could most likely fit in there. But yeah, I was quite pleased how that turned out. So thank you to the Twisted Stitcher for being the inspiration, although I did alter it to my own measurements. But I mean, the principle's exactly the same, you just alter the measurements to what you want it to hold. And then that gives you a plan of action. So I've enjoyed making this. I just need to make another 10. Well, I may even make smaller ones, as I mentioned before, because obviously some of the patterns that I have are actually just A5 size, and not all my boxes are this big. Some of them are a lot smaller, so I wouldn't necessarily need a huge bag for every single pattern. So you know, I'm gonna have a look, because I'm trying to cut back on buying. So I'm gonna have a look at the fabrics that I do have now I've made one, and maybe patchwork some together, because it's the length that you need, you see. So maybe patchwork some together, and maybe make a couple of small ones, and then slowly transition over. But yeah, I'm really pleased with that, and it is padded with fleece. So, not fleece, yeah, fleece, yeah. Sorry, having a moment. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. So that was my bag. So really, quite a bit done since I last saw you. So my last bit of well, it's not haul or anything, my focus piece, so June, is wine and whips. And traditionally that is projects that for whatever reason you might not feel as motivated to work on as you originally may have done. Like, it could be back stitching, or you've only got back stitching to do if you don't like it, or beading or whatever, blah blah blah. Well, I don't generally, because I don't have that many projects, I don't generally feel like that, but I do have one UFO, and really that qualifies, doesn't it? So I haven't worked on this project, it truly is a UFO. I haven't worked on it since around about this time this time 2014. So it's nearly 2 years since I've worked on it. It was my first project that I ever kitted up myself. So for some reason, I've only got the pattern, I haven't got the picture. I have got the picture somewhere, but it's not in the bag where I'd hoped it would have been. So I'll insert a picture here. And obviously it's The Bride by Lavender and Lace. So if you watch my very first video, it's on there. But I think my very first video was me making the transition over to evenweave. Yeah, and I never looked back, which is why it ended up being a UFO, because this is on 16 count Ada. So this is where I'm at, where I am. So I've done a fair amount. The Ada is a lot softer than other Adas that I've looked at. Obviously the skin's not 1/1, it's as charted. Everything, I believe, is exactly as charted. So, but I'm thinking, sorry, that was my stomach if you can hear that. I'm thinking wine and whips, it's a focus piece for 1 month. Try and get it done. Not done, that'd be lovely, but try and work on it, because worst case scenario, next year, wine and whips, that's the one you pull out, and you keep doing that until it's finished and all your UFOs are over. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I've got to find myself on the pattern again. So it's going to be a little bit of a mission, but I'm hoping that once I get into the swing of it, and it, in a way, although it's Ada, it'd probably be a good test for me again to sort of, you know, get used to stitching on different fabrics. I know I stitch on different counts a lot, but I tend to do the same concept. It's like 2 over 2, 2 over 2, 2 over 2, even if the count changes. Whereas, you know, it might be nice to go back to this. This is what I'm saying. So this is actually the bride. Sorry, I'll show you one more time. Keep rolling it. The bride is going to be my focus piece for June, and it's Wine and Whips because it's my UFO. And just see how far I get on it. So she is pretty, and it's a shame not to have her done, really. But yeah, there was, I mean, I didn't railroad with these. It's what the floss tube community has brought to us since, and I haven't done a lot of that, and I didn't do a lot of that with this project, so it's going to be interesting to try and keep my stitches looking similar. We'll just see how it goes. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not massively, obviously I want it to look as nice as I possibly can, but this is also part of my stitching journey and my stitching story. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, I would still frame it. It's like my bunting that I did. It was the first project that I'd stitched, that I made something into, like from a sewing machine, which I hadn't used in years and years and years and years and years. And is the stitching perfect on it? No. But it's not completely terrible. I mean, you can see what it is, and it lays flat and it does things like that, but it's not perfect on it. I'm happy to put it up because it's part of my story, it's part of my journey, and my stitching will improve and it will get better the more you do, the more you try, the more different fabrics you work on. But they're all, the ones before are all still part of that story because they're the best that you could do at the time. And so, don't get me wrong, it's going to be hard because in a way I've got to go back and work on something where my techniques changed since. But I do want to do that. I still want to get it finished, and it is still part of the story. So that is my focus piece for June. So yeah, I think that is everything covered for this month. I'd like to take this opportunity again to thank all my subscribers and any new subscribers. Thanks for watching and thanks for commenting. I do try and comment. I don't always get notifications, so I do try to comment as soon. I have to go on to my videos and look at the comments to be able to see sometimes whether people have commented or not, but I'm grateful for the ones that do, and just the likes. If you just want to like, I'm a liker generally. I don't necessarily put comments on all the videos. As I've said, I stitch and watch flosstube, and I don't always, as much, I always like videos, but I don't always comment. Oh, that is one thing that I will mention. I watch flosstube on my iPad a lot, and I will pick it up and move it into the kitchen while the video is still playing, depending on what I'm doing. I'll move it around the house, and as I said, Tarisi's framing video, super fan anyway, but I've watched that several times over and over to just try and get the gist of it. And I noticed, like, heart attack moment, that when it come up, I had it was illuminated on the dislike thumbs down. I was like, no! So I corrected that. But that made me think, how often have I picked up my iPad and my thumb has pushed either a dislike or what? If you've ever, I don't actually know how to do it, but I know some people have said that they can see who likes and who dislikes and this sort of thing. If you've ever seen a dislike from me, I'm stating it now, it won't be a dislike. That will be an accidental thumb movement or hand movement where I'm picking it up. Because if I'm not a big fan of a video, what, do you know, I still even like it. I just, for me to dislike a video, and this is personal criteria, you would have to be ridiculously offensive, like really offensive and rude, because I would feel the need to dislike it and say, and I'd comment and say that's not necessarily, you don't need to be that rude or hurtful or nasty or anything like that. I am lucky I've not come across anybody that even remotely comes close to that bracket, you know. So if I've taken the time to watch your video, then I'll always like it. On other videos, not particularly flosstube, where I've watched something and I think, no, that's not really for me, I don't dislike it, I just move on. I just don't do, you know, that's generally that's my criteria. If I've spent the time to watch the end of the video, then I'm always going to like your video, because obviously I spent the time watching it. But yeah, so if for whatever reason I've ever disliked, because it made me paranoid, thinking, oh my, how many times have I actually picked up someone's, and they've seen all these dislikes, and it's like, oh, she really don't like a lot. No, it's where I pushed the button with my, so I am trying to watch that and make sure as I go through people's videos, it's like it. Now don't touch it, move. Or if I move like around the house, I'm like, make sure you don't touch the likes or the dislike button. I think it's just a reaction where I've picked things up and it's clicked on it. So anyway, Patissier, if you're watching this, love your video. If you can see how, you've probably seen that I've watched it about 15 times now. So yeah, there's definitely no dislike there. Like. So anyway, that's me rattling on for ages. But yeah, thanks to all my subscribers, thanks to any new subscribers. It's been great watching all your videos, and thanks for commenting, and I will catch up with you next month, mid-June. So thanks guys, happy stitching.